I'm Kim with Advanced Tanning Solutions. This is Levi with Mountain West Tannery, and we are going to be talking about do-it-yourself tanning today. And I first want to thank Phil and Abe for putting on an amazing show. This is the first year here, and we're very honored to have been asked to do this seminar. Tanning obviously is near and dear to both of our hearts. Levi does commercial tanning. We produce products for commercial tanners, all the way down to do-it-yourself tanning. So we're located in Golden, Colorado. Our founder is Dale Noblock. Who is Dale Noblock? First of all, he's my stepfather, so he's very dear to me. He has been a pioneer in the tannery and taxidermy industry for over 45 years. He was actually the developer and the first one to bring to market the first DIY tan cream back in the early 80s. It was called TC9, and NuTan is an updated version of that product. Dale's also an award-winning sculptor, award-winning taxidermist, 2017 inducted into the Taxidermy Hall of Fame. I just had to show this. This is the first taxidermy magazine, Taxidermy Review, and this is Dale on the right with Denny Bain in 1981. They work for Jonas Brothers, and the caption on the cover says, "The wizards behind the Jonas magic." Back in the day, Jonas was the thing. They were a tannery, a taxidermy, and they did furs, Jonas Furs. Now I'm going to let Levi talk about who he is and what his company does.
So we started our tannery 4 years ago after working at a commercial tannery for a couple of years. Opened up, we tan a little bit over 4,000 skins a year up in Greeley. Anything from crocodiles to white-tailed deer out of Kansas.
Levi uses our products, so we know he does good work. So starting from the very beginning, you have a successful hunt. Why do you want to save the hide? Thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of hides are wasted every year. This is, so just some of the reasons I thought about. Sentimental. This is our daughter, Kate. Eastern Colorado, her first white-tailed deer. And so she didn't want to mount it, but we did do a Euro mount, and then we tanned the back skin. So we've still got it, and it's actually in our booth if you want to come take a look at it. Tanning the hide. It's used for clothing. It's used for crafts. Today we're talking about hair-on tanning, but we also have products that can do buckskin tanning. So if you're making clothing products, hair, hats, gloves, furs, whatever. Taxidermy, obviously, if you have a successful hunt and you get a great harvest, then you'd want to taxidermy it. And Levi's going to talk here in a little bit about what you do in the field if you want to taxidermy it or if you want to just save the hide for tanning. Sustainable. I mean, today's day and age, tanning, hunting, conservation, it's all sustainable. So why not save the hide and tan it? So just a basic, what is tanning? It's turning a raw skin into leather. Ancient tradition, obviously people have been tanning for over 7,000 years. I think our process today, though, is a little bit better. Hair-on tanning, like I said, is what we're going to talk about, but you can also do buckskin tanning. It's a multi-step process. It looks daunting, but it's really not. It's pretty self-explanatory. The process we're talking about today, as I mentioned, is NuTan. So it's a super easy, formulated for the first time, do-it-yourself tanner. It's an all-in-one tan. It's super easy to use. Okay, I talked about the steps of tanning. Here are the basic steps. So no matter what product you're using for tanning, you're still going to follow these basic steps. Skinning, field care, you've harvested the animal. What do you do with it now? Then you're going to go into fleshing, salting, rehydration, pickle, shaving, tanning, drying and breaking, and then finishing. It seems daunting, but really it's not. This is Levi when he was 17 years old. Is that in Alaska? Yeah. So I'm going to let Levi, since he is a seasoned guide and a tanner, talk about skinning and field care.
Alrighty, guys. Now that you have whatever you're hunting, whitetail, elk, down on the ground, obviously you're wanting to get it mounted, you got to take the cape off. So pulling the cape off, leave plenty of room behind the shoulder for the taxidermist. Go a foot past that front shoulder when you cape it out. They can always trim it later. You can't add what you can't take out in the field. So once you get that process of, cutting up the back, taking off the antler burrs, coming in there, field care is the most important step. So letting it cool off before you wrap it up. If you're out in the field, let it cool off, put it in a game bag, hang it. You're not wanting to roll it up hot, lay it on the ground. So hang it from some paracord, get some airflow to it. Once you bring it back to a point to where you can save it, if you want to tackle the fleshing process of turning the lips and the ears by yourself, you can. There is a big thing going around of salting a hide and then putting it in the freezer. Do not do that, as it changes the lowering point for freezing that hide. So if you want to save it, not want to flesh it, roll it up and freeze it immediately. Rolling it up, you do not want to roll it face over in like this and put it in the freezer, because when you get it into the freezer, the heat that gets trapped into that face will stay, and that's just enough just long enough to slip the hair off the ears, the face. So, fold it up like you would a blanket, easy, not too compact, and then freeze it right away.
We mentioned bacteria here, which is a really big deal when you're tanning. Bacteria is the reason for hair slippage. We'll get calls from customers and they're like, my hair slipped, I don't know what happened, or my hair slipped, it's your product. No, it's not the product, it's bacteria that gets in the skin, eats away at the hair follicles and makes them fall out. So this is a picture one of my customers sent me of squirrel skin, and talking through it, we realized he left it in the rehydration bath too long. The rehydration bath really is just meant to rehydrate it till it's soft and pliable, but he had it in for 4 days, and that's when bacteria started to grow, so makes the hair slip. Every step of the way is one we really want to be careful about bacteria. We're always thinking about it, like Levi said, if you're not handling the hide in the field the proper way, bacteria is going to start to build. We have a customer who always says, treat your hide like you're going to eat it. I mean, obviously you're not going to eat your hide, but you want to treat it that way so it's not going to grow bacteria. Okay, so first step. You've got your hide skinned in the field. First step is going to flesh it. You're going to remove all the meat, fat, and membrane. This is a fleshing beam. Levi can demonstrate just the coyote. This one is a finished coyote, but he can demonstrate how there's a fleshing tool that you can use, and you want to just put it on a hard surface to where you can really get going and really remove that meat, fat, and membrane, because that's getting your hide as clean as you can is really going to help with the end product. So the picture on the left is us using the fleshing beam, but Levi in his tannery has a really good system, and what he's doing on the right is fleshing it with a power washer. And this is just an everyday power washer that we purchased. I think it was like $110. And it does an amazing job, especially on thin skin like furs that you're worried about popping a hole in if you're trying to flesh it with a knife. Levi, is there any special you want to say about fleshing with the power washer?
Flushing with a power washer, 2300 PSI power washer with a turbo tip is pretty ideal. If you're getting into bigger elk, cows, you might have to increase that, 3200. Get a little bit closer with the nozzle when you're doing it. If you get too close and you start noticing little ripples in there, just back off a little bit, angle it down a little bit more, and it'll skin it off. Also works is great. Not only are you fleshing it, but you're getting a lot of the grease out of there, a lot of the non-tannables that didn't come out. I mean, just way better than trying it by hand. Just the turbo tip nozzle, one that spins. There you go, Kim.
You can do it in an angle, right?
Yeah, always angle it. If you go straight down, you'll blow a hole.
And cleaning the fur side too.
Oh yeah, that's another great point, Kim. It's also when you get there, a lot of these coyotes, buffalo, elk will have burrs stuck in the hair, stick, grass. I don't know, I've seen it all, guys. Power washing that before you go to thin that skin down will save you from holes. You hit a burr, cock a burr on that leather side, you'll put a hole right in your hide. All right, guys, next step is going to be salting. One of the most important steps on any hide project you're going to tackle. Salting the skin not only pulls the non-tannables out, but will turn it into, over a periodic of days, it will turn into a really hard surface, which we like to refer to as flint dried status, which is how this coyote is. This has been salted for a couple days. It will turn hard, crispy. But what this does is, as it squeezes those leather molecules together, it squeezes out all the non-tannables and gives us something to be able to put back into the skin. Because the skin is full of non-tannables, fat proteins, you'll just get a surface tan. So it's always good to salt your hides, make sure you roll out all your edges, salt everywhere, fill the ears up. You got a question? He asked how long from kill to finished hide should you get it salted. So obviously the answer to that question would be immediately, as soon as you can. Obviously that's not ideal if you're out backcountry. That's why I said, get some airflow to it. You got some time before it starts to go bad as that bacteria sets. Because no matter how good you are, bacteria is going to grow immediately. As soon as that hide gets open to it, especially gut shot, get whatever you want on it, bacteria is going to set immediately. So heat, obviously, big bacteria promoter. So that's why I said let it cool off, steam off, and get salt on immediately. But don't be rushing into your salt process. You got to rule of thumb is salt only penetrates 1/4 inch. So if you have a layer of fat and you already have a 1/4 inch thick hide, you need to be peeling that meat off to the white of the leather. So that way you get a good, strong salting. And only salt twice, because the first time you're going to pull out a ton of non-tannable fluid. I mean, you can get buckets off of cows. So make sure you're salting twice. Do not reuse your salt, as eventually it will grow bacteria back into it. So fresh salt every time. Salt's cheap. Replacing a hide is not. Going into a little bit further detail into that, make sure you guys roll your edges out every time you salt, because as that hide starts to dry, it will curl up and over. And if it curls up and over, it will just sit there and that hair cell will dissolve. as it goes down. So just take your time, make sure you're flushing it properly, and that will a properly fleshed hide will just save you guys tons and tons of time later on in the tanning process.
One other thing about salting, and when it gets to this stage right here, this can stay this way, for a couple of months?
Oh yeah, a long time.
Yeah. So if you get to this stage and you don't have time to tan it or you plan on tanning it later, this preserves it. This salt is like curing it. So you're good for a couple of months before you can tan it. So next step after salting is the rehydration bath. So salt draws the moisture out of the skin, so now we need to rehydrate it. So we're making a bath, and there's full instructions on the bottle here for every step, plus supplemental instructions that wouldn't fit on the bottle. So we've rewritten these probably a dozen times in the last 5 years, just based on customer questions and really to try to help walk you through tanning for the first time. So rehydration washes out the salt, and it opens up the pores in there for the next step, which is pickling. Here we are just mixing the rehydration bath. We have other products that you can supplement. That was a hide washing deodorizer. This is a tube skin trapper dried that we're putting in there with a hide relaxer. But coyotes are super stinky, so we use the hide washing deodorizer. Okay, after rehydrating, then that was pulled out and it was mixed into a pickle. So what the pickle does is it helps set the hair and make shaving easier when you get to the next step. So the directions on the NuTan bottle call for a vinegar pickle, so it's a basic do-it-yourself at-home pickle you can make. But as Levi knows, in many other commercial tanneries, there's several different pickles you can use. Whatever pickle you use, you just want to make sure you follow the directions for that pickle and really watch your pH because it's very sensitive. Normal pickles are acid pickles, so it works at a lower pH. If you're going to use a different pickle, you'll want to raise the pH to 4 to 4.5 before you apply the NuTan, and that's the pH where NuTan is effective. The directions on here call for a vinegar pickle, and the pH is already pre-adjusted based on the amount of vinegar we tell you to put in there. So after the pickle, then you're going to pull it out, you're going to drain it, and then you're going to shave it. So I'm going to let Levi talk about shaving, and this is actually him shaving the hide here.
So yeah, guys, as you go into this process and you get to this stage, every hide is going to have different thickness. Obviously, coyote's super thin, so you got to be super careful. But you guys get on something like an elk, you're going to be thinning it for a while. Ideally, doing it at your house, we're using an angle grinder right now with a grinding wheel on it. And as you thin that hide down, especially on like an elk, as you get closer to that hair follicle, it will bleed through the back blue. The stronger the blue color is through the back of your hide, you're getting closer and closer to that hair root. So when you get a good strong blue color popping through your back of your hide, you're thin enough. You don't want to go too thin because you can cut the back of that hair root off through the leather side and the hair will just slip right through. So as we're going through here, you want to make sure you're even and consistent. You don't want it 1/8 of an inch thin over here, 1/4 of an inch over here, because as it dries, you'll be stiff, soft. So just make sure you're taking your time and thinning it out. So the thinner you go, the faster the breaking process will be at your house. You won't have to run it over a post for 2 weeks to get it to go soft. So just make sure you're thinning them down correctly.
Okay, after we've got it shaved, now is when you apply the NuTan. And we brought this here. Levi's just we couldn't demonstrate obviously every step, but we did bring coyote at the stage where it's already pickled. So now it's ready for the NuTan, and Levi's just going to show how to apply the NuTan. And the important thing is to get it, it's just like the salting. You want to get it into every flesh side you can. And he's really going to work it in, especially to the face area. If you can, try not to get it on the fur. It's a little bit difficult to get it out after because you don't want to wash your skin after it's tanned. You don't want to wash the tan out. Yep, so Levi's just starting with a generous amount, and he's just moving it to all the flesh areas. In this coyote skin, obviously, is a life size, so it's got everything on it. It's even got the claws and the pads. It's got the full face. It's got the tail. The tailbone's been removed. Yep, working it in the ears. So the ears have been split on this. When this was skinned, the ears were already split, and the lips were turned. That's a whole nother seminar. So yeah, the face area especially is important to get it all worked in. So like I said, what NuTan is, it's a tan and oil in one. So it's tanning the hide and it's also softening it. So just like salting, it's getting it all the way to the edges, down in the pads. Any questions so far? How do you sew the hole? Oh, when?
Once you're done, like once it's dry, you can come back, wet that area back. Yep, hydrate that little spot, cut your football size shape out, and sew it back up when you're done. No, being wet, you don't want to sew it up because as it dries, it'll constrict in and out. So if you sew it up now and it dries, it'll shrink up, tear stitches, all sorts of stuff. So just when you get done.
Yep. And you will. You'll just lightly spray the area around the hole with like a spray bottle so it gets moist. And then, like Levi said, you cut a football-size hole and then sew that together. So when you're on the fur or the hair side, it doesn't look like it's been repaired if you cut it that way. So you're actually making the hole bigger before you sew it. Make it. Would you recommend dental floss for sewing was the question. But no, we actually recommend using fish line. What weight? I know there's a weight.
4/8, I see. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. I think it depends. A heavier weight maybe for thicker hides, but yeah. Okay, so now that Levi's got it all oiled on the flesh side, generally we'll let it sit for an hour, and then any pooled areas we'll just go back in and rub it back in. And then now what he's doing, he's folding it flesh to flesh. So what we want to do is let it sit for 24 hours this way, and that way the tan will activate. After 24 hours, you're going to open it up and you're going to hang it to dry. Because as it starts to dry is when you're going to start working it and breaking it. So I put on here timing is key, because if you hang it and then forget about it, 3 or 4 days later, it's going to dry stiff like cardboard. So when it's semi-dry is when you want to start working it and breaking it. And when you do that by hand, it turns white. You can tell it's going to turn white as you start stretching it and breaking it. So that's what's going to keep it soft and supple. Anything else about breaking that I can think of?
Yeah, once you guys start breaking this hide, you'll notice it'll be, it's going to constrict as it starts to dry. So as you start to stretch those fibers back out, it'll stretch, you'll see it'll turn pure white. Obviously, like the damp areas, as you still work it, continue to let them dry as you're working it back and forth, and it'll start to break soft. Just keep working it and working it. You guys will get it.
Yeah. This is an important step, and I just want to say the first hide that I tanned by myself was an elk. And I always tell the first time people, just beware, it's a hard one because it's so big. And if you don't shave it down thin enough, it's really a bear to try to break. But, play tug of war with it, stand on, step on it and stand on it, pull it up, really, really take it, rub it over a table edge, anything to get it breaking. Commercial tanneries are lucky. They have big drumming wheels that soften it for you. But, doing that yourself, it's all by hand. So, okay, so now that you've got it tanned and it's broken, the final step is finishing. So I'm going to let Levi talk about this because he's really good at what he does. He gets his hides and skins like top quality before they go out the door. So he has some really good tips on do-it-yourself grooming.
Yeah, guys, so as you start this final process, leftover grease can be trapped in the hair, oils. Good thing to remove that off of fine furs is dry shampoo. Spray on there, that will strip that oil off that hair. Grooming it, don't really want to go using like air compressors because they'll blow water into that hide, get it all back wet. So shop vacs, peg dog, dog groomers, shop vacs, you can turn them inside out, make the air blow out, start to groom that. And then finishing it, obviously, once you get back over to here, once you get done breaking it, just from fleshing it, you can still have stuff left over on this. So at home, sanding tools, Dremels, you can come in here and go as clean as you want it to, thinning that out, getting it to where it looks really nice and clean. Doing the face, Dremels work great to finish out the faces, get them nice and clean how you want it to. Dry shampoo strips the oils off. Dog brushes, groom the crap out of them. There'll be so much stuff left in there, you'll be like, wow. It's normal to when you get done with your hide. If you use a dog brush and you're getting loose hairs out, fur, it's fine. The hide's not slipping. It's just natural shed that's left over there. Kind of how Kim's doing. You'll spend 22 minutes to an hour grooming one out.
Yeah, one other tip in our fur and hide tanning kits is a pumice stone. And this works really well to help soften it and to help get any loose fibers off. You can also use the shaving tool to come back just gently because fur skins are thin and clean it up that way. Yeah, and that's our finished product right there. These are customer photos that we've gotten of things made with NuTan. A lot of taxidermists, obviously Zimmerman in Pennsylvania does amazing work, uses NuTan. A lot of taxidermists are also tanners, so they'll do both. As I said, Levi and I are both here from Colorado. We're in Golden. Levi's in Greeley. So yeah, that's pretty much tanning with NuTan in a nutshell. Any other questions anybody has? Yeah, his question was, when you're turning the lips, how far do you go? Levi's an expert. I'll let him talk about that.
So, like starting off the lips, obviously you're like the nose is gonna be intact still. So how I always do it, you're gonna roll the lip like upwards, and it'll feel real thick. And as you start to come off that nose across that front of the lip line, you'll start to unroll it. And if you pinch it with your fingers, you'll feel the thickness of it and where that roll is at. And the more you cut into that lip line, the flatter it's going to lay. So you want to go and take your lips as far as that will let you go until there's no thick, meaty like roll into the lips. So you can kind of see, like, this is the bottom of the gum line top. So we just completely flipped this all the way until it's flat. Like, there is no thick pieces up in here, and you'll be able to tell what I'm talking about when you guys are there. You'll feel like there's a hunk of meat in there, and just continue to skin that down. Same thing on the nose. Like, once you start, this is not a great one to show because coyote noses are done a little bit different, but like on a deer or an elk, you'll split that nose cartilage right down the center, and you'll just pull the wings all the way up until they won't let you go anymore. That's a whole nother, that could be a couple hour long seminar on fleshing properly.
But explain why.
Yeah. And the reason why you want to split this is obviously, like I said, salt's only going to penetrate a quarter of an inch, so you got a lip line that's a quarter inch thick already. The idea of salt getting in there to, set that hair and protect it from bacteria growth. So you want to make sure you're splitting them all the way and make sure you're getting that salt down in there. Thank you guys for coming.